Thank you all for joining the webinar. My name is Ogenete Driagodoroba. I am currently the Women Tech Makers Ambassador, and I am also one of the co-organizers of the Google Developers Group as well. So thank you again for joining today's call. So the inspiration for today's call was basically as a result of the October 1st that began at the beginning of this month. So what led to it basically was that a few people reached out asking about it, and they had no idea on what it meant, and they were particularly interested in contributing, but they didn't have any idea on how they could go about it. And so that was what led to this session, to have to bring someone who is familiar with the open source space to come and share a bit of the knowledge they have about the open source and see how we can also contribute to it. I myself, I am particularly excited too about it because I really would want to see how I can also be able to contribute to the open source community as well too. I hope everyone can hear me. If you can hear me, you can just drop the okay emoji.
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, that's awesome. So, without wasting much time, I'm going to be inviting our speaker. The name of our speaker is Precious Utobivbi. She's a product designer as well as an open source contributor. She's going to be sharing her insights with us on how it has been contributing to open source, how it has helped her, and also how it would help us as well. So, Precious, take over.
Hi everyone, good evening. Can you all hear me?
Yes, good evening.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, good evening. I'm Precious and I'm a UIX designer. All right, I'm excited to share a few things about contributing to open source. All right. Um, I'll just share my screen quickly. Okay. So I've just been a year plus into open source, and I actually started with Outreachy. I don't know if anyone is familiar with Outreachy. Although before then, I had a few friends who were really into this thing called open source contribution. So, if it's okay, I like to throw it to everyone. Anybody here knows what open source is about? So I'll start from there. Anybody? Nobody? Can we all see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
All right, so I'll take that as a no. All right. So my first attempt to contributing to open source, obviously, was contributing via designs, right? And open source is wide, all right, and it has a lot, in it. So I know there's this notion, open source is all about programming and all of that. We will deal with that on this call. So here's a few things that we'll be talking about. What is open source? Why should you contribute to open source projects? Popular misconceptions. How do you check for open source projects? Open source technologies, and we'll do a little demo on GitHub. Hope that's fine. Am I good to go?
Yes, you are.
All right. Thank you, TJ. So, what is open source? So, I in normal plain terms, I think open definitely explains it. It's open, then source. Okay, more like All right, let's just go into it. Open source is a term used for projects which their source code, all right, is made available. Simply put, open source is a term used for softwares that are open to the public. All right, these softwares can be, you know, adjusted, modified, be viewed, they can be used by anybody. So it's made open, all right? Unlike other softwares which no one can make access to except for the company that owns them. Those are privately owned softwares. But these open source softwares are made for people to actually modify, all right? And it also gives them rights to users. So, for example, I don't know if they are designers here or if they are developers or writers, but coming from the design point of view, one of open source projects that we use is Figma. I don't know if anybody knows Figma. Anyone?
Yes, yes.
Okay. But wait, before I go on, I'd like to know, are developers on this call? If developers are on this call, please just unmute your mic and say hi.
Yeah, hi, I'm a developer.
Okay, nice. Any other person?
Hi, hi, hi.
Hi. Any other person? Okay, we have two developers. Okay. Are there designers on this call? I know TJ is a designer. Any other person?
Yes, we
Okay,
have
no.
one person, Precious. Precious is a designer. There's a Precious
Okay.
on the call is a designer.
Oh, nice. Special designer. Do we have any writers? No writers. What other field do we have? Anyone? You're on this call and
You can type it in
join.
the chat box if you are not comfortable speaking. Then I'll call it out.
Yeah, please do so. I just want to know my audience better. Okay, so I'd like to give a few minutes for that, although if there are no response, then I'll just move on. Okay, so open source actually is likened to
Developers group as well.
a library,
So thank you again
right?
for
This is one scenario just to paint a picture
One good thing
of
about open
what
source
open
projects
source
is
really
that
is.
even if it
Right,
was
so
done a
imagine a
year
librarian
ago, the
placing a
last
number of books
contribution was
in
a
a
year ago,
location where anyone is
but
free
2 years
to read.
ago, it doesn't
Okay,
matter,
if you've ever been to a
right? As
library,
long
a big
as
library, yes, you grasp what I'm trying to say. So imagine getting to a library and you see different books, all right, numbered, all right, and definitely in a library, you're not permitted to leave with a book without registering, or you're not permitted to edit any book without seeking, authorization from the librarian. All right. So that's simply put, just like open source, it is open to everybody, just like the library. Anyone can come in, anyone can read, anyone can borrow, anyone can make copies. All right. But first, you have to seek permission, to borrow or make any edits. All right. So that's open source. All right. Moving on. Why contribute to open source projects? So, from the brief explanation of open source, you can see that it is quite interesting. All right. Um, it is open to anybody. So, imagine being a developer and okay, one of the open source projects is Python. I think, yeah, Python. All right. So, imagine coding with Python. All right, and you just love using the products. You love sorry, software. Sorry, I'm using design terms. You just love using the software, all right, and probably may be interested in one or two modification of the software, all right. Um, Makes it interesting that you can actually make these contributions and it will be effect, on the software. That's so nice. Like open source, contribute to open source is very interesting. I don't know how else to explain it. It's very interesting and gives you a wider audience. All right, you get to learn more. You get to experience. What's the word? Industry experience. All right. For the lack of a better word, yeah. So here are a few listed reasons why you should contribute to open source. So one is to improve, and gain a much deeper knowledge about the software you rely on. Basically, it's just getting to know more about softwares and tools that you use on a daily basis. All right. So imagine Google. All right. You're very curious about how Google is doing, why are they doing what they are doing. All right. Imagine Figma. Okay, let me not imagine what's not open source. But imagine, okay, let's say Microsoft. Imagine Microsoft is an open source project. Just imagination. All right. You would want to get to know more. All right. You want to see how few things that you're looking at, or few um features that you may want, can be brought into life. All right. So very interesting. You can get to improve any tool that you have interest in. For example, on Figma, we have Figma community where people contribute different products or projects. All right. And it makes life easier for the users. All right. So yeah, and you get to learn. Right. You get to learn in the process. It's more like a free, sometimes it's free, sometimes it's paid internship or volunteering opportunities. Okay, so you get to learn in the process. You get to meet people, make new connections. All right, learn from them, and in turn implement. Okay, you implement what you learned. So it's an open space. It's a learning ground, right? And it helps you share your skills. It gives you, just like Twitter, right? It gives you a wider audience. So people get to see what you are doing. They get to see more like a semi CV, all right? So the more you keep contributing, the more people get to see what you are doing, the more, you become relevant in their eyes, all right? And it builds your reputation, obviously. Yeah, and definitely you get to grow. So mentor. A lot of people go to contribute on open source to actually end up getting good mentors, because one thing about open source is that you have communities, all right, and you have people willing to mentor you. Okay, people, although not, there are some communities that really have mentors or ground. There are some where you just, after contributing, you just notice one or two persons that you may want their mentorship. Right. So it gives you that access to, get a mentor and to obviously network. So that being said, what are the popular misconceptions about contributing to open source? So actually, when I first heard about open source, I had this idea that it was only for developers. And obviously, I'm not a developer. Maybe I will become one, I don't know. But it was this idea that I painted in my head that what would I be doing with open source projects when I'm not skilled in this area. But fortunately for me, I met a few persons that actually opened my eyes to what I'm about to share, which is anyone can contribute to open source. Anyone, I tell you, anyone can contribute. Even if you're a marketer, you are a designer, a writer, a content writer, content creator, anybody can contribute to open source. Right? It's not hard. It's not difficult at all. Okay? Just a few steps which I would, break down as we go on. Yeah. So, like I said here, you can contribute in many ways, including documentation, design, testing, fixing up typo errors, even as little as fixing typing errors. That is contributing to open source. So debug yourself of the mindset that, oh, I'm not a developer. I cannot contribute to open source, or I'm not good enough. No matter how you feel, you are not good enough. Once you put what you have out there, forget it. People will see you relevant. So no matter how little your skill is, open source is always open for you. All right. Now, how to search for open source projects. Am I too fast? Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Any questions so far? Any
If you have,
question? Anybody?
you
No
can.
questions from my end.
Okay. But if anyone has a question and you do not want to speak about it now, you can add the questions to the chat, and when it's time for Q&A, Precious will start with those questions. So if you have any questions as Precious is going through her slides, you can drop them in the chat box.
All right.
So Precious,
Thank you very much. So, how to search for open source projects? It's very easy actually. One, you can explore familiar projects, softwares that you used to, or softwares you use on a daily basis. You can check if they are open sourced. You can check that online. Okay, Google is your friend. Yeah. Then two, you can join open source communities. There are open source communities for um, different niches, I guess. But I only know for design and development. But yes, there are so many open source communities. You can check them out on Twitter. You can check them out on Slack. You can check them out on Discord. All right. Three, you can search on GitHub. I don't know if definitely developers are familiar with GitHub, all right? But I would do a rundown on GitHub so everyone can see how to search, for open source projects on GitHub. Okay. Yeah, so these are a few listed open source projects. We have Drupal, WordPress, MySQL, yes, MongoDB, familiar with MongoDB, Git. So these are, few listed open source projects. Penpot is for designers. Figma, obviously, open source design. Chaos Africa is for everybody. Graph Protocol, I did a research on that. It's open source. Okay, now moving to the main thing. Open source technologies. So, first of all, getting started with open source, one needs to be familiar with Git and GitHub. Okay, GitHub is a platform where we get to see open source softwares and contribute to them. So on GitHub, there are a few terms all right, that are being used to make this contribution seamless. Okay, I will just do a run through of the different technologies and give you a little view of how it is on GitHub. So one, we have license. Okay, license is a set of rules that dictates how open source software can be used. Okay, so first, after looking for a project to contribute, all right, first things first is to read about the project, read the documentation about the project, and read their license. Okay, this will guide you, right, on how to use the software and how to contribute. Every open source project have their contribution guidelines and code of conduct. So you do not want to, you know, you do not want to not be aware. Okay, so you don't get flagged. All right, so it's very important that you go through the license and you go through their code of conduct. All right, it specifies permissions, restrictions, what they expect contributors to do and not to do. Okay, so that's for license and code of conduct. Two, community. Community is a group of people who work together to develop and improve open source projects. I don't think I've seen any open source project that doesn't have a community. Many open source projects, right, have a community where both contributors, maintainers are all, in sync. So if you have any contribution to make that probably you can't do on GitHub, obviously you can do that on the community. All right. Skills like community management, maybe social media designs, social media management, all these are also part of contribution, right? Which mainly are done in the community. So communities for open source, in fact, that is one of the what's the word now? One of the main things about open source communities. Okay, so if you're having any challenge with any software that you're contributing to or you're interested in, voila, join the community and life will be made easy. Repository. So repository is a place where the source code and related files for an open source project are stored and managed. Okay, I will show us what exactly a repository is. Okay, when you finally get to decide on the project that you want to work on, you go on GitHub and you create a repo. Simply put, repo is that's the short form of repository. It's just copying that particular project, all right, whereby you can be able to make changes that do not affect the main project. Okay, you can be able to make copying it to your own GitHub, for example. Yes, copy it, customize to your own GitHub. So you can make whatever contribution, you can make whatever changes without it affecting the main file. So that's what repository is. Now, after creating a repo, yes, you get to fork. Yes, creating a new version of an open source project by copying the source code and making changes independently. You get to fork it. Oh, I think I explained fork later. All right, so fork and repository explained. I would show us on GitHub, so everyone is carried on that. Commit. Commit is a single set of changes made to the source code, right? Whatever change or contribution that you make, it's saved as commits. So after making those commits, and you have liaised with the project maintainer, all right, you can then create a pull request. So a pull request is a way for contributors to suggest changes or improvements, all right, to an open source project. So after making a comment, in open source maintainer, all right, and not until it is merged with your changes be affected. So merging is combining changes made by different contributors into the main source code of a project. So it's more like fixing a bug, right, on an open source project, and once it gets merged, obviously it is updated on the main project. That's what merging is about. Documentation, documentations, instructions, and information about how to use and contribute to an open source project. For example, README file, which we will see shortly. Now, hello GitHub. So here is a little, let me just switch to GitHub. Can everybody see me? I will love to entertain questions. Please ask me questions.
Okay. Precious, are you done? Or you want to switch to GitHub?
I want to switch to GitHub.
Okay. All right. So does anyone have a question for Precious? Okay. I have one though. I have one question. So the question I have is, what are some challenges that people face, or challenges that you face trying to contribute to open source?
Okay, for me at first, it was navigating through GitHub. GitHub was a whole different, ballgame for me. It took me a while to understand the interface and trying to contribute. Yes, because I had always felt like GitHub is for developers, right? And I really wanted to contribute via design and not anything else. So aside that, getting design related, for me as a designer, right, getting design related projects as at the time I started, right? But what helped me was a friend of mine had explained that you don't necessarily need to be on GitHub to actually contribute. And that was what I said earlier, right? That you don't really, you just have to get familiar with the community, right? There are other things you can do aside making changes to codes or coming on GitHub to, make UI changes or UI edits. You can also contribute as a community manager. It's more like volunteering to do stuff. Do you get? So
Okay. That's nice. That's really cool.
okay, so this is github.com. All right. I wish I could show some communities, but I will share the few ones I know. So there's chaos. What's the full meaning of chaos again? I can't remember. But there's chaos or chaos. Please, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it well, but yes. This is one open source projects. All right, anybody can contribute to this. So, but before I get into this, I wanted to show how you can or open source projects on GitHub. So if you come to this hamburger icon, yeah, and click on it, you have explore and marketplace. Okay. So once you click on explore, you get to see different projects, so many projects that you can, all right, contribute to, and you can check on topics, maybe pick a particular topic and search for maybe projects on Python or projects on several other softwares that you may be interested in. Right, you can see 3D, algorithm, Angular, Arduino. Okay, for developers, I guess you're familiar with that. You can still see trending projects that people are contributing to. All right, and you can definitely, like this one, 16,000 persons. Wow, 231,000. So you can see people are contributing to open source projects. So yeah, this one, Real Girls. I don't know if anybody has heard of Real Girls, but Real Girls is a community, all right, that's more like Chico's Africa. Yes, more like Chico's Africa. So yeah, this is, let me go to their main. So this is Real Girls Guide. Okay. Yes. So you get to see people that have contributed to this project here. All right. You can see the languages they use. All right. And if this suits you as a developer, definitely why not contribute? Okay. You can also check their website if there's anything that you feel needs edits or any of that. You can definitely create an issue and contribute. So this is the interface for GitHub, right? And as I said earlier, we have documentation, which is this README that is here, right? README, you get to read about the project. You can see just brief intro about the project, what they're about, checklists, how to check on local hosts, and all those things. Okay, and you can see how many people have started this particular project, how many persons are watching. Yes. So how do you contribute? Saying that this is what do you call it? This is an interface. First, you can search on good first issue. So good first issue, I don't know if this particular projects have any good first issue. You can check Oktoberfest. Yes, Oktoberfest. Oh, they do actually. They do. So good first issues here are projects that first time contributors can actually contribute to. All right. Let me check for Oktoberfest since we are talking about Oktoberfest. So let's practical. Okay, so like I was saying earlier, good first issues are issues that first time contributors can contribute to. All right, you can see, for example, see this here. This particular project is beginner friendly. All right, anywhere you see beginner friendly, good first issues, they are for first time contributors. So you can open it up and contribute. No matter, one good thing about open source projects is that even if it was done a year ago, the last contribution was a year ago or 2 years ago, it doesn't matter. All right, as long as you can make a contribution. So let me go back to chaos. Mhm. Let's just open this up. All right, so how do you get started? One, you can click on, okay, let's say I want to contribute to Oktoberfest 2021. First, you have to fork this. All right, so this is fork and this is star. Like what I said, fork is creating like duplicates. All right, so after you've done this, all right, it takes you to another page where you have to confirm. All right, and once that is done, then you can contribute. All right, you can contribute, copy or commit. So this is it. You are creating a new fork, right? Which is copy the main branch, and duplicate it to your own GitHub account. So once that is done, you can now make commits. You can make commits and tag your maintainer on any commits you make. All right. Once they like what you've done, you can always check with them. You don't even really have to wait for them to actually respond. But once you've committed or you've made that commit, yeah, you can now create a pull request. Although sometimes you might face some challenges. For example, first one I had was when I was trying to fork a particular issue. It wasn't reflecting on my branch. So branch actually is after you've copied and pasted to your GitHub, it is now saved as branch. Okay, so you have created a branch under that project where you can now make edits. Yes, so but if you encounter any problem as regards creating a fork or your branch or pull requests, right? I actually outlined a few videos, okay, just underneath. I would share this slide so everyone can have access to it. So here are a few listed links that you can also watch, all right, and get ideas on how to navigate those challenges on GitHub. But like I said, contributing to open source is not only done on GitHub. Once you get access to, open source communities, you can, contribute as much as you want. Can change typos, suggest better content, and all those things. So that's all I have for contributing to open source. I do hope you enjoyed it.
Wow. Thank you so much, Precious. This was really an interesting session. I got to pick a lot of things. And thank you for also agreeing to share your slide. It's going to be helpful as well to go through a few things as well as the videos you spoke about. Thank you. Come on, let's give a round of applause for Precious. This was awesome. Let's give her the emoji. All right. So we have one question here, Precious, and it's from SA. SA is saying,
Okay.
what are the benefits of joining open source apart from it building your profile? She said she missed that part. That what are the benefits of joining open source?
Okay. Simply put, yeah, just asking what are the benefits of volunteering.
Mm,
First of all, you have to want to do it, right? And one of the benefits is on the long run, you're actually um um and there's a particular word I want to use. Mm, you're actually giving your, okay, let me not say 2 cents, all right, but more like for a lack of a better word, all right, you are making sure whatever software or platform that you're interested in contributing to, you're adding your 2 cents to it. All right. There's this joy of contributing um something, and you see that people are actually, happy that that particular thing was done. Okay, I'll take for example on Figma. um I don't know if you are familiar with Figma or you've heard of Figma essay, or let me okay, let's just say Google. Okay, Google, everybody knows Google. So let's just imagine that someone, all right, saw that Google's search writings, okay, the words are not big enough for so many users to use, and someone decides to open that as an issue, right? And suggest maybe a preferred font size. I'm just using that as an example because I feel everybody can relate to that.
yeah.
So in the end, all right, you do not only benefit from that, other people get to benefit from that.
Mm,
All right. So it's just like the importance of volunteering is that, yeah, you get to make other people happy and get to make yourself happy.
yeah, that's true. Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
because
I think it also comes down to most of the GitHub stabs we see. Most of them mainly are because
yeah,
of contributions they've made, and as a result, GitHub honors them by making them stars, and they get access to events that are hosted by GitHub as well too as well. So you have access to
exactly.
more community benefits, what others will usually have to pay more for. Most times you either get it close to being free as well, which also helps in your development as well.
And you get free
So
swags.
yeah, free swag. Everybody loves swags. All right. Thank you so much, Precious. It was so great having you here. Thank you for honoring our invitation to come speak. We truly appreciate you and we do not take this for granted. And also for every single one of you that joined in, super grateful. Good luck, Eric, Favor, Bushi. We have Precious. And we have a lot of people as well too. We have Essay. Thank you all. Gosmine, thank you as well for joining us. Super grateful. We look forward to having you for our next session as well too. We hope would also be pretty soon. Ooh, Favor says that they are heading for GitHub Star this year. Yeah, we're
Yes,
rooting for
so
you.
please do.
We're rooting
Let
for
it
you.
be heads. Don't
Yeah,
worry,
to
please. We are doing
yeah.
it big.
It will be nice. Okay, good luck for the slides. We're going to share it on the GDG group as well as the Women Tech Makers group, so everyone will have access to it as well. How will you get the slides? The slides will be in the group. You're in the GDG group, right? Good luck. Can you hear me? Okay, I would presume yes. Okay. All right. So it will be shared there. Others will share it as well. Thank you. Have a good night, everyone, and see you during our next session. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.